All right, and we are live once again, shooting the shiz with the 03 lost Leatherface. He doesn't like to go by that anymore. Kemper Killer, Brett Wagner. What is going on, my co-pilot?
How are you, my friend? Yes, our second show of 2024.
Yeah. We're following up a great interview last Wednesday with a pretty awesome show this week with Dr. Satan himself, Walter Phelan.
How you guys doing?
How do we pronounce the last name so we don't? Are you a felon or a Phelan?
Yeah, it depends on, it depends.
Depends
if you're
on
with the homies, you're a felon.
When I was a little kid, it was Phelan. Are you Phelan? Are you a felon? So it's whatever.
Whatever comes out of people's mouths, it's as long as it's close enough, right?
Yeah.
Walter, you are up, if I remember correctly, you're up in the Portland area. Is that where you are? Up there in Oregon?
I'm an hour south of Portland, up here in cold Oregon. It's about 40 degrees now right here. It's been winter though, it's not that cold actually this winter. Right.
It's been pretty chilly here in California. I'm sure John's had some storms the last couple of days.
Yeah.
Not as bad as Mike and his mom out there in Pennsylvania, but we've had some pretty cold weather and ice and snow the last few days here in Missouri.
Yeah, that's coming here.
Is that where you grew up? Did you grow up in the Pacific Northwest?
No, not at all. I was born in Van Nuys, so I grew up, partially in San Fernando Valley, and then in Las Vegas when I was a little kid. There you go.
Mighty SFB right there.
Oh, so remember I first saw that and I was like, "Hey, Black Flag, what's going on, man?"
Yeah,
and I kind of lived all over the place, with divorced, 1960s divorced parents, and so I kind of just moved around as a kid. Lived with grandparents and then with my dad for a while up in the Sierras above Fresno, and then eventually back down to like Simi Valley in the SoCal area. So that's where I spent junior high school, Simi Valley, and then continued to live there. Moved to Hollywood for a while.
So the 805
SoCal guy, yeah. But after COVID, I moved up here after COVID. I kind of was done with everything, and I don't know.
Lived a simple life, huh? Travel when needed.
Yeah. And already had family up here, so I kind of knew the area a little bit, and looking for a place to retire.
Not a bad place out in LA,
that's for sure.
Nice area out there. Peaceful.
You're too young to be retired, buddy.
Yeah, 65.
You're still too young to be retired. You're in better shape than most of us.
Yeah, retired from certain things, not everything, of course.
I don't know. I seen this guy on the drums. I was watching some of his music videos. He doesn't look 65 on those drums, man. That dude can hit some skins.
Yeah. That's what I like to do. That's probably the most important thing to me is doing that.
Well, that's what you initially. I was watching some of your interviews and learning a little bit more about you before our interview, and one of the big things, and Brett had told me, was your music career, and you are an amazing drummer, and you've been in a few incredible bands. Punk rock, the band you're in right now seems it's a weird style, but it's really cool with your front man and the sounds.
With Pat Todd?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a really great songwriter. Music, whatever. That's I've never made a dime off music, so as a youngster, that's like all you do. I mean, that's all I did from teenager till my mid 30s was starved playing LA bands and went through the whole. We were like a 70s long-haired band, and then in late 79, I went. You knew a little bit about punk rock, and I had Sex Pistols record, and I think I had a Clash record too. And then I found out about Black Flag, or at least local bands in LA. I think it was late 79, and went to the Starwood by myself.
Oh, the Starwood!
I can't remember who opened, and it was near. Not quite the end, but it was getting like the last year of the Starwood. And I saw Black Flag with Dez singing. And, he got through like 3 songs and his voice was gone. I'd never seen anything like that. So kids jumping off the rafters, and it was like mayhem. And I was hooked right there. So I went home, cut all my hair off that night. I was like, we could take what we're playing now and we just speed it up. So we started like playing, in RF7. You know, we grew up. You know, I grew up on Black Sabbath and Aerosmith and Alice Cooper and stuff like that. So we had this kind of mix of like this sort of Sabbathy sounding like verses and really fast choruses and vice versa, and had this mix sort of a like kind of a rockin' and a punk rock thing, and that was pretty much our style throughout. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I played with all those bands back then, SD and Circle Jerks, all those guys.
You know, it's what he's talking about, John, is a very famous club, the Starwood, which was owned by a guy named Eddie Nash.
Yeah.
Who I used to work for. Eddie was in prison, but I worked at the Seven Seas up in Hollywood. I don't know if you ever went up there. But I was just a little too young to get into the Starwood. I was the right height, but I couldn't get to the Starwood.
You couldn't grow the facial hair yet? Notorious place. Bands, pimps, hookers. They would check your guns in at the front. I mean, it was a wild place, and it was a place that was really cool. So you being about 10 years older than me, you got to see, I was catching the tail end. 1982, I think I saw Black Flag for the first time. I had to take a bus. I had to take a bus to go see him.
Where was that at? Like Cuckoo's Nest or something?
No, it was at the Cathay de Grande, I think. Or it might have been at it was at the Whiskey or the Cathay de Grande or somewhere.
Used to live at the Cathay de Grande. I mean, played there so much. I don't know. It was a really wild time. But Starwood was a weird club at that point because they'd have like heavy metal nights, regular rock nights. So they'd have Quiet Riot playing. Then you'd have Van Halen playing. Then you'd have like a Black Flag or Circle Jerks gig. It was a weird time. And also Rodney Bingenheimer used to play records at the disco.
Rodney on the Rock. Yeah.
So you could just walk in. You got, if you got enough money to record something and make a little single, you could go in there and give it to Rodney just in the club. It was great. And, if he dug it, he hated our band, but whatever, but he would play it. I thought that was just the coolest scene because you could just go right to the guy. You get on the radio, you're at the club, it was a really cool scene. And then after about maybe 3 years into it, it was time to go. It became like big gang fights. It was like crazy. All the
got a little too dangerous, huh?
Heads. Then there were like MCPs, which were mid-city punks, and they were like Mexican guys. And then you had the Orange County guys, and it became like this big gang warfare thing. And you couldn't play a show without fights and your equipment getting smashed. And it's like, you know what? Let's get out of here. And by 84, 85, the guitar player, Nick LaMagna, he's passed away. He's been gone for about 5 years now. And he was my buddy from junior high school. And so we played in every band together throughout that year. And then we put on makeup and grew our hair back out and went up to Sunset Strip and started playing that scene.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And then
nothing wrong with that at all.
Happened. Yeah, then it was Faster Pussycat. Our band was called Cold September. Who else? Motorcycle Boy.
Oh gosh, Motorcycle Boy, yeah. Junkyard.
Guns N' Roses came through really fast and just like came on the scene gone. They were, Love and Rockets hung out, the band that kind of was part of that band. Like two bands that joined and then made it. The other guys,
I was bouncing at the Whiskey. I probably ran into you and I had no idea. I was like
probably
17 years old and working the Whiskey and then working the Roxy.
Around like 87.
Oh yeah.
Like late 80s. Okay.
85. I mean, 85. I was 17 years old and working the bars in Hollywood, working the Seven Seas and going to see shows and working the Whiskey and
would have known Ricky Rockman because we knew him.
Yeah.
And he was booking Jane's Addiction, and we were playing some really nice gigs for them because they were bringing huge amounts of people. I mean,
Triple X Records,
just route ready, and somehow we kept getting opening slots. It was really great for us, and a couple band members blew that to hell, and like every other band I was in, something went wrong. Somebody became
a band life. It is,
or a heroin addict, or.
That was a great time to be in Hollywood, though. I mean, every single night there was something going on. If you were into punk, if you were into glam, if you were into, you know, Metallica and those, you know, those other guys, if you were into Armored Saint, we used to go see Armored Saint at the Chuck Kirshner's on Sherman Way in Topanga. And I can't believe I can't remember the play.
Country Club.
Yeah, the Country Club. Mike,
they filmed all of Boogie Nights. That's the club in Boogie Nights.
Yeah. So it was just a great time to see bands and everything back then. And I was working all the bars. So I was like, you know, and Jane's Addiction. I mean, I went to their signing party when they signed with Triple X Records, and, you know, Guns N' Roses and all these bands were, you know, LA Guns. They were all about to get signed. And it was that big thing where they were just coming in and grabbing everybody.
Yeah. Well, they didn't grab us, but I was gone at that point. I think I'd quit music for the third time at that point. I'm like,
you might not have had the 80s hair poof going enough.
Yeah,
we all need more hairspray. You needed to tease that out a little
and
bit
all
more.
that. Yeah. It was fun. Another fun scene, you know.
But
go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say, I mean, there's so much in music, such a big part of your life. What led you to like the SFX and into acting? How did you find that avenue for yourself?
That's something I kind of always in the background. I mean, I grew up in the 60s, so I was a little kid when Universal was like just pushed so heavy in the 60s. It was like Universal Monsters, Beatles. That's all I remember from the 60s, because that's all there was everywhere. And so, you know, I was allowed to watch those movies when I was pretty young. And my mother at the time used to make me up as Dracula and different Mummy. And, you know, I guess I couldn't go to the store without being completely made up. And I don't have any pictures, but I've heard tell the stories. So anyways, I was kind of always around. And so I've always loved those movies, most of all those old Universal.
Well, Universal monster movies.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't not like those movies, whether you're a horror fan or not. I mean,
and that continued, you know, even like the punk rock days. I didn't go to the movies that much because we were so anti-society, you know. We didn't do anything, you know, no TVs and all that crap, you know, when you go to regular movies. But we'd always go. Hollywood Boulevard then was still pretty trashy and awesome because there were still like the Pussycat, the Go-Go theaters, and a lot of hookers and a lot of bums. It was great. And, you know, all the old trashy stores. But the theaters, there'd be like Dollar Day, and you could see, you know, Evil Dead and 2 or 3 other low-budget horror films, you know, for like $1, you know, and the stinky old theaters. But it was great back then. And so I continued, you know, horror was always there. Even during, like I said, during punk rock days, we'd still go see all the different horror movies, at least. We were into that. And probably by the 4th time I quit playing music again. I also had a baby at that time. I was about 33 maybe at that point. And I'm like, you know, I got to get a real job because, you know, I worked day jobs and quit constantly my equipment, and the bands were always, that was it, you know, and starved the rest of the time. So I just, a cousin who I grew up with happened to be working for a model shop, and he got me a job. I was like, you know, I got to do something to make money. And he's like, and that was on the Abyss. He was making the big chip models on that. So I got like a couple weeks on that and was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And, you know, saw guys who were all into sci-fi, making molds and making their own aliens and shit in the shop. So that looked really cool. And I loved building monster models and stuff like that too. And so from there, he knew another makeup artist, Scott Coulter, from Street Trash. He worked on Street Trash when he was younger, when he was a New York guy. And I started working for him, and then that was it. I was like, okay, I could learn how to do this, you know. And then I met Todd Masters through him, and then that kind of took off. So he was doing Tales from the Crypt for the last couple seasons, and through Todd, I ended up just meeting other makeup artists in town. And you know, Todd, I was begging, I want to wear suits because of like, you know, I want to do that. I think that's going to be really cool. And eventually I got to do some things in Tales, like 3 episodes. And then The Prophecy came into the shop, that Chris Walken movie. And I did a little part in that. And then once Tales ended, they did Demon Knight. And so I'd already done a few suit things for Todd. So I was like, okay, we're in as the demons in that. And from there, everybody else in town kind of saw that movie, and K&B guys, Howard and Greg, saw that, and they had Dust Till Dawn coming up. So a couple of us from the Demon Knight got hired for that, and then it just kind of snowballed through the '90s, And I'd work at shops too, so I was a foam runner and mold maker and all that stuff. And
Doing some stunts too.
Yeah, well, that kind of comes in with the suit work.
Sure.
If you're there in a suit, they figure you're a stunt guy, even though you're not. And I just kind of wing it, like everything else I ever did. Just get on the spot and just what kind of preparation you do. None.
You a stunt man? I got the suit on. Why not?
Well, that's what happens, and very rarely would you get what you deserved, which is like a bump, at the end of the day. $50, $100, they usually give you a stunt bump. For the most part, though, that never happened.
Well, rumor has it, one of the biggest movies you ever worked on, Race to Witch Mountain with The Rock. You beat up The Rock.
Yeah, and see that movie.
I auditioned for that movie. That's why I pulled it up.
Back the Block. I don't know if I worked on those or not. They're in my credits, but I think I was in a shop probably on the foam crew running foam latex for a show. But somehow those get listed as like, I'm like, no.
Wishmaster.
Credit for it. Hey, why not? Yeah, I was there.
It's like, okay. Yeah, Wishmaster, I did like second stage of him when he's birthing. And there's like a little teeny guy. It's a laboratory's crashing apart, and then girls on the phone. And there's like, and Vern Troy played the first little Wishmaster, and he's like this little guy. And then I was kind of the second stage of him coming to life, grabbing the jewel. And so I did like a 1 day on that. Another thing for KMB, and Greg Nicotero directing that second unit, actually. Yeah.
I like Greg. Leprechaun 2. I mean, you've done work on some big horror movies that I love, that I have in my stable here.
Awesome. Yeah, Leprechaun 2, I was with Todd Masters and did some puppeteering. We built these vines and I puppeteered those. And then I was like, I had one quick shot of me, like my head falling into frame. I think it's when the guy's at the cappuccino machine. Yeah, and he gets burned up. And that's me with muck on my face falling into frame.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
a weird movie. Antlers.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. Is that really good? That was Legacy Effects. That's the last place I ended up working at for like the last 9 years. I got kind of a steady job later on there. And
yeah, the effects are good. The movie, that's
what we did, the effects. So I worked on that puppet.
So cool. It's
puppet. Yeah.
Yeah, you've worked with some legends. Even like in House of a Thousand Corpses. That was Rob Zombie's first movie, and Walton Goggins was there. I'm a big fan of his, from Vice Principals to the Righteous Gemstones. Now the guy's such a talent. So
that movie. Cool, I got that. That was a weird kind of thing because I knew a little bit about Rob Zombie. I mean, I knew his. I don't think I'd even heard his solo stuff really yet, but I knew the other band, which I liked.
White Zombie. Yeah,
I liked White Zombie. I thought they were kind of a cool kind of crossover band, kind of a mixture of genres in a way. And I came in late in the picture because they had already. I mean, the story's out there, but they had already shot. All the principal photography was done for a few months, and Universal saw it, didn't like the cut. They wanted to see Dr. Satan at the end, so they paid him to shoot for 2 more weeks, and he had like a couple of units going at once in those 2 weeks to get, and then which pretty much the whole ending of the movie. And I was hired through Wayne Toth, who did my makeups on Dusk Till Dawn. And some other KMB stuff. He used to be a KMB guy, and then he owns Halloween Town in Burbank, and and does all of Rob's stage stuff and all his movies and videos and all that stuff. So Rob just said, "We need a skinny guy to play Dr. Satan. Who do you?" And I was doing a lot of work at the time, and Wayne was like, called me up right away, and so I went down for a few fittings to his shop. Went to the lady's house for some fittings for the wardrobe. And didn't even do a makeup test, and showed up and got into makeup and sat around all day. And they were like, "Yeah, we're not going to shoot you." And I was like, "Okay." And then came back the next day and didn't even get into makeup. And they sent me home. And I was like, "No, I'll take a day's pay for nothing. Sure. I don't have to sit around and make up. And then the third day we shot that stuff and we did maybe 3 versions of it. And it was done so fast, you know, I barely knew really what was
Such
happening.
a great scene though. The one time studios interfering, I know can be a real headache, but I'm glad they went with that direction.
Yeah, it seems like that is so cryptic because I come in and okay, you know, you're in the makeup and you get an idea of at least what the monster or whatever the character is, kind of just from how you look, and then the rig and everything else. So it's like okay, because there's really not much information. The script says barely anything, you know. He says one thing to the girl and then calls for the person. That's it. And which Rob overdubbed into something else, some kind of gurgly stuff later. And so, you know, he's just like, look over here, say that. Here. And then you're kind of just left on your own to, you know, do whatever he feels right. And it was over so quick. And then Wayne called me the next day and said, the footage is out of focus. And I was like, okay, that's great. And I was like, we're not going to see it because that was like one of the cooler sets I'd ever seen. And just the image of it and the monster, it was so cool, you know. And a lot of the stuff is very derivative, and that just seemed really original. And so it was kind of a drag, but eventually it worked out. And he somehow cut that together to make the scene. And you can see it's almost like still photography, and, you know, it's kind of blurry and odd. So he put together what he could out of it.
But it works, though. It works for that kind of film, though. It really does.
Yeah, it works great. And hopefully he never goes back to it again because it makes it more of the lore of it better.
Yeah.
You know? People want him to do it. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a prequel.
That'd be kind of cool. I mean, would you come back to do Dr. Satan and really bring him to life?
I would doubt it. But who knows? You never know. You can't say never.
Yeah.
How cumbersome, because I just watched it again last night. I haven't watched it in like 10 years, and I just watched it again last night because we were going to have you on. And I was watching all that stuff they had you hooked up to. I mean, it had to be a bit of a pain in the butt.
It wasn't bad. I just had to stand there for a long time while they made up Chris, because they did like all of his guts and everything there. So it was a long time of them making that.
I know, and he went on to be the voice of The Walking Dead doing all those interviews. How crazy. Yeah. I mean,
he's got an odd career, that guy. But the thing wasn't bad. I mean, the whole rig was made out of mostly PVC pipe, so it was super.
It was pretty light, actually, so it wasn't too
really lightweight. And yeah, so I was able to move around pretty well, even though he just stayed still. And they had some chains.
It looked like you could kind of scoot around if you needed to.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Even though there was no place for me to go, but they had chains on it first, and then Rob came in and saw it, didn't like it. And they just put ropes on it after that, like the 4 tentacles.
Yeah, it was definitely a cool look, especially one that was kind of thrown together to finish the scene. It came out awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't so much
figure now,
together, but I feel that way like when I'm thrown into a spot like that where there's just not much direction. We're just like,
just kind of go for it.
I love it.
Times it was always like that. So. He's like, yeah.
I love it when they let you go and do something. They just say, I got to work with Sean C. Phillips, director, and Nicole Vegas for a movie called Desert Fiends. And we're going to do another one called Skate to Hell. And, he goes, this is the idea. And he lets you go with it. I mean, that doesn't happen very often in bigger budget movies. They don't let you just go, okay, Walter, do what you want. They don't, so that's pretty awesome. Now, when the movie came out, it was a huge success right away. It was a big deal. Rob was getting kudos all over the place. Well deserved. We were just talking about it. It was like, I was just talking to John earlier today saying that is like a Rocky Horror Picture Show, just more violent and without the stinging. I got that vibe, and I was like, man, it was really cool. But the success of the movie, I mean, did it, were you doing conventions right away, or no? You didn't ever do it?
Because I remember it started small, and I was saving everything, and I remember little ads in paper, and then by like the 3rd week, there was like full page ads. So it seemed like it was just like climbing and climbing each week, which was really cool. Because a lot of movies, big movies, they come out, they're gone in like 2 days, one weekend, and the things are out of the theaters, So that was really cool, and it was yeah, it was exciting. And then I was looking around, and I have thousands of dollars worth of magazines. Well, I sold the Fangoria collection before I moved up here because it was just too heavy to bring, but that went to a makeup friend of mine. And but I used to go to the newsstand and look and look and look and find anything. So I started finding pictures and
Did you ever go to the theater and watch the movie? Did you actually ever go to the theater and kind of
yeah, I went to the premiere, and I took my wife at the time, and yeah, and that was really fun because there were a lot of people there. Like Joey Ramone was there, of course, and a bunch of other people. And he kind of walked through to his seat while the Ramone song was playing, and I was like, "Hey, that's cool." And my wife's kind of like, "Yeah, he didn't want to really be there. He doesn't care."
I got a feeling she didn't enjoy the movie as much as others.
You like the Ramones, And then we saw the movie, and she leaned over and said, "Don't ever take me to one of these fucking things again." That was the worst thing I've ever saw. Don't worry.
I was gonna say, if she didn't seem into it before the movie even started, I could only imagine what her reaction was once she got through it.
Yeah, and so I had mixed reaction at first, and because just it's cumbersome when you're with somebody who just hates it and stuff, whatever. And then we went to the party afterwards, and that was fun, and we got to meet Karen Black and some other people, and I got to meet people in the movie for the first time. But then later became friends with Sid and Bill and all those guys at conventions. I hadn't thought about doing that at all. And then I was approached by Bill Philpott, and I was on Amityville Horror, that remake,
Yep.
and playing Jack Ketchum, this ghost cowboy guy who a lot of cool stuff we shot that was not even in the movie. There was all kinds of cool.
That's always the worst. I know Brett's had a few of those moments too, where he's like, "Oh, we did this great
Oh
scene."
yeah, and it's gone.
And it's not there. Yeah,
it's not there. It's not there. Yeah, like in Devil's Rejects, Dr. Satan, which doesn't belong in there anyways. It would have been wrong and horrible. Yeah, I mean,
there's no gave you credit for it. And the IMDb, it says Satan's Reject. I mean, Devil's Reject.
I take credit for it. And the scene's out there, so you can see it. And he puts it on the DVDs, which is great. And it's cool. Rosario Dawson was fun to have around. She loves horror movies. So she really
seems awesome. I've always been a big fan.
Yeah, and that was really cool. Wayne Toth effect. It was like one shot, or we weren't going to get it. It had like 3 stages to the neck appliance. And I had to get he had, actually sculpted in the holes for my fingers to go into her neck and grab like the second layer of stuff and not the third layer. And then the blood has to pump. And I've been on a bunch of shows where, the blood is just not working out. They're just, the tubes are busting and it's just not happening like it should. And they just move on. A lot of times effects not happening. And I've been on the other side too, doing effects where it's like, you fuck it up and they just move on. And it's not even in the movie, And but the shot turned out great. It was, I thought it was really awesome. But I don't see where it would have been in that movie. It would have made no sense.
Yeah, because they were on the road.
and they're not even monsters anymore. They're different people.
It's definitely a different movie. I mean,
they're different people.
Yeah,
they're physiologically different people.
Yeah,
the guy's not an albino in the second movie.
No,
not an albino.
No, his look is definitely drastically different in House of a Thousand Corpses. In the sequel. So it just yeah.
I think I see the man behind you up on your desk right there.
That is this guy Scott. He made those. Yeah, he's Your Dream Creations. He just sells them on Etsy. I met him at a convention and I bought like a pullover one that you can't pull over very well, and he was set up right next to me. And then he had a bust like that, and I was like, "Oh, I want one of those to display. It's a really nice sculpture. You did really cool. It looks better than the Halloween masks by far, by 1,000%." And I finally got one this last year from him, and I drug it to one show, but it's too much to drag around. And then there's a little doll some guy made me years ago. some of my favorite stuff is all this
Oh,
fan
that's
art
cool.
stuff. Yeah, I mean, you know, the amount of love people put into stuff, and I have little pictures painted by, you know, little kids who watch the movie, which is kind of odd to me, but
Well,
Kids-
I forget what convention you and I were doing for the first one. I don't know, maybe it was Creep by E or something, but that was Creep by E. It was you, me, and I had a couple of the Leatherface guys, and Robert Mukes was there as well. But John,
last year, a couple of years ago.
It would have been last year, I think.
Okay.
But these guys come in, John. They're bringing CDs and stuff, and they're all over, you know, and they're all excited to meet Walter. I'm like, what's going on over there? I mean, I know, you know, but they're not. They're talking music, right? They are so enamored by Walter and the music, and I was like, you know, he's a pretty big deal. And I was like, I just know Walter as an actor. I don't know that, but it was so cool that these guys were coming in. Do you get a lot of that? Do some people come up and know your musical stuff? And
not so much. I mean, I bring some stuff and I always promote. So, you know, I bring some CDs and some of our singles every once in a while. And, but usually just from hanging out the weekend, I'll end up, you know, there's a lot of musicians come through too. And who are mostly into different scenes than, you know, some 65-year-old guy's music, but but still, you know, there's the few. I mean, you and I connected through music. I saw your tattoo, and it was like Black Flag. Oh, I know those fucking guys, you know, and so somewhat, yeah. I try to promote it. I mean,
are you still playing? I mean, you're with the guys now, right? But you still go out and do shows?
Yeah, you guys got to check out Pat Todd and the Rank Outsiders. Now, he was during the 80s when we were talking about the punk scene. He was in a band, Lazy Cowgirls. They did pretty good and stayed at it for a long time. But they were more of like, I guess, punkabilly, but not, I don't know, not that much. Even their sound still, it wasn't like hardcore punk, you know, it wasn't like, you know, Flag or something like that. But it was still kind of more Americana music like he does now. But we do more of that. I mean, you know, our albums, our last album is just out, Sons of the City Ditch.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, it's our current lineup. And
on vinyl?
Yes, all vinyl, all the time. Which I don't even have a record player, so I don't know. I'm always like, Pat, I need a CD. So, but we do CDs too. And
you need
but
a record player.
yeah,
They're easy to find now.
He's big into vinyl, and we do a lot of singles too. I mean, he's got maybe 5 different record labels. He just got an Australian label. He spent November for 3.5 weeks out in Australia on his own, and he's now doing his little Bob Dylan thing, so it's his guitar and harmonica, and him, and it went over really good. He's out there with Psycho. It'll come back to me, but pretty big punk Australian band. Been around. They're older dudes. Been around for a long, long time. Psycho, something, Psychos, Cosmicos. And anyways, they're like a good old boy kind of Australian punk band, and he went over really well. Full band was going to go out there, but that's hard because you know, it's on a really low budget, so. They do local gigs in LA, which I used to do, you know, constantly, but now I'm up here. So they got another guy who kind of fills in. And that pays, you know, everything we make goes back into the kitty. So there's a band kitty. So nobody makes any money. But everything gets paid for. So when we tour the States or go to Europe, you know, it's all paid for. In May, we're going all of May out to Europe again. And
oh wow.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that. That's really fun. Europe's great. Better than the States. You get fed, paid money, you know. And they have these big festivals out there, which were really fun.
I'm trying to think of the band. There's a band up that I did a show with, and they're in Portland, and the guitar player is all jacked up with fangs. Get this vampire. I can't believe I can't think of it right now. But I mean, Portland. I mean, that area up there's got a good music scene, though.
Well, so does Seattle. Yeah, I haven't. Yeah. I tell you the truth, I haven't ventured out that much. Now we're playing up here. We usually play Seattle and Portland every year, so we're playing up here in February, And I'll go down to LA for about a week. We'll do some recording. There's always recording to be done, and do a little rehearsing, and then we'll come play Seattle, Portland, and then I'll stay here, come home, and those guys go back to LA. And then May is all through Europe, and then another con after that? Oh, Smoky Mountain.
Smoky Mountain.
2 days after Europe, so that better work out right.
Don't bring any bed bugs home.
Well, I don't want to be on a 737 either. That plane left up here.
Oh,
with the side that blew out, the door that blew out.
With the door, yeah. How lucky no one was sitting there.
Oh my God, yeah. I don't like that. I don't like flying anyways, but like the idea of going to Australia horrifies me. I have to be highly sedated for that, I'm afraid. Last year we went to Europe, but we had to fly 6 hours out of our way just for, money reasons. It was the longest. It was horrible.
Yeah, especially if you don't like flying. I'm not a big fan of flights myself.
And we had to go all the way to Istanbul to change planes there, and then back to Spain, which was it was awful. Yeah. I said never again. I'll pocket the rest of it to get me a regular flight.
So, what was I going to say? So, any new movies you've been working on? Any projects now that the strike's over? Any?
No, I'm not. I mean, nobody's been calling, and I'm up here now, so I'm in a different situation. Because when I was, I've been up here about 3 years now, and I was still going down. I was still spending like half the year in LA working at Legacy Effects, and then they ended up shutting down August of last year, or was that 22? Wow, I don't know. But anyways, they shut down. We had done Guardians of the Galaxy and Dungeons of the Dragons and a bunch of other shows. And Guardians 3 went on forever. We ran makeup pieces for that for a year. It was ridiculous. It was like it was never going to end. And things like that, when they go on that long, you just want it over with. It's just like there's so many numbers.
It's a little tedious.
Yeah, it gets really tedious. Yeah. And they ended up shutting down because they knew the strike was looming. And then a few months went by, and then the strike happened, and then they're sort of back to work now a little bit, but not fully. So slowly things are coming back, but there's not a lot I don't think there's still a lot of work out there. And especially for makeup effects, which, takes a while to come back. But they ended, they'll be back soon because they do Mandalorian, all the Marvel movies, just about, all the Disney stuff, all that Mandalorian and Ahsoka and all those shows. And besides various commercials, Legacy is really, really busy studio, like really crazy. And but doing that, I was running foam there, and then doing some suit work, commercial stuff, doing some puppeteering and all that. And but that day to day, I'm done with that.
But it sounds like you've been keeping yourself pretty busy doing a lot of this and that, which is great.
Doing conventions and then doing music. But and I'm always open to acting and all that. It doesn't matter really what the budget is.
Any tours coming up? Any shows that you got going on? Like
I said, in May we got a Europe tour with Pat Todd, and then I got what do we got?
So nothing till May. No U.S. tours. No coming by Missouri for any shows.
No, we need to do Midwest. Pat's from Illinois, and about once every 2 years we do the Midwest, and then we do Texas every year, and I got some guys want to hook up, like doing cons and gigs. And
I would think that some of these cons, because they do bring in musical acts, I would think that would be a natural fit for you at some of the bigger cons to be, get out there. And
I tried it a few times with Ari, and so it's pretty good.
Ari Lehman.
Yeah, and he used to hit cons a lot more than he does now. I haven't seen him in a long time, but he tours a lot with his band, and he has a full-on band now. And we tried that a few times, Jason versus Satan things and stuff like that with RF7 when we were still playing, and it was okay. And then there was Rock and Shock, but They want horror.
Massachusetts, yeah.
You know. And Pat's no fun. He wouldn't even do like anything.
I just think it'd go hand
out
in
of the
hand.
ordinary. Pat's now, he's 70 something. He wouldn't do anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah. No big outfits and stuff like that. You're not going to go all kissed with the makeup, platform shoes, and none of that.
No, this music and this is the show and this is what we do.
That's it.
So the band you need to look for up there is called Hideous Monster.
Hideous Monster. Okay.
I think you will dig him. And the guitar player, he's buff and he's got fangs. I was like, okay, I like this. I dig it.
I can't say I venture up there too much. Now my son's up there a lot. His girlfriend lives in Portland, and for some reason, and
your son's got to be in his mid to late 30s.
25.
Oh gosh, right. Look at him. I don't know what am I doing. I'm way off, Schwag. I was way off.
Well, we had him late on, but yeah, he's 25.
Okay.
No, he's 26. I'm sorry. 26. But still.
Hopefully he's not watching.
From vacation. She's been gone a month, so.
Well, I enjoy doing shows with you. I love to watch. You're a great guy, especially when we're at the cons. You're real good with the people. I mean, I think, and then having all this stuff in your back pocket, the acting, the special effects. We don't want to keep you too retired up there. We got to get you out.
Not at all. I'm out there, and then you make connections at cons, and there's film work to be done even through people at conventions. We
got to see if we can get you in Skate to Hell. There's some roles in there. There might be a good role. There might be a role playing Satan, the devil. But
I'm up for anything.
There's some good stuff there. I may have to pitch you to Sean C. Phillips and Nicole Vegas if they are watching tonight. But
I know Nicole was here. I'm pretty sure I saw Nicole.
Yeah, there's it's great. You're real good with the people. I watch you. And
if you're not having fun doing those, I don't see why. I've seen a lot of people that don't and treat people kind of rudely, and big people and small, actors. And I kind of learned right away. And I don't know. Some people are really, really bad at it. Well,
I agree with you 100%. Sometimes it's people, and I look at it this way. I'm like, look at, what a blessing that you and I and Robert and some of these guys can go to some of these conventions and put some money in our pocket and meet some people. Yeah. I love it because I get to see people like, you live hours, 11, 12 hours from me, but I get to go and BS with you and we can talk some music and stuff like that. And you can network.
Yep. Yeah. It's hard work. I can't say it's not hard work. I'm exhausted after a weekend of that,
It's fun, buddy. Yeah, it is draining. Yeah. The conventions are draining.
Especially you, John, because John, John's setting up, he takes like 6-7 hours, if not longer, to set up 3 tables.
All that stuff, yeah.
Well, when we were at Monster Expo, I had a great time, great show and everything. And it was awesome meeting you. Walter was one of those guys. He's one of those celebrities you just go up. He's such a chill, cool dude.
Thanks, man. You hit a lot of cons? You sell at a lot of cons?
Yeah. I booked Chicago, Days of the Dead. I'll be at Crypticon, Kansas City. I got a few others in the works I want to go to. I'm not sure how many I'll do this year, but I'm sure I'll be doing quite a few. I got the winter blues. It's like January, February. I'm not driving in the Midwest all over the country, so it's kind of I can't wait till March and get rolling again.
It's a grind, and then you book like I overbook so many shows so many conventions this year, because and this year probably with acting is going to be giant. This pilot season is going to be because we had so much time off. There's all these shows that couldn't film. There's all these shows that got greenlit that weren't able to do anything, and all the network. In fact, I have to go spend like $600, $700 and get new headshots because I don't look like. I'm older now, so my agent's like, "Look at, you're not in your 40s. You're not in your 40s anymore."
Yeah.
But getting some auditions.
There's our friend Summer Flynn. She's been here watching the show. She's the voice of Days of the Dead, Vegas, and Chicago. She's got a great show too. Brett was just on it. I was a guest on it as well. Maybe
She's
she can bring
awesome.
you on, Walter. She's very, very cool. One of the nice ones out there. One of the good people.
Easy on the eyes. Yes.
Yes, she is.
Good.
Yeah. So how long have you been married, Walter?
I've been divorced for about a long time now.
Oh, geez, that went really well, didn't it? Right there.
Yeah.
Well, he sounded pretty excited to say, well, I've been divorced for this. Like, I don't remember how many years I was married, but I'll tell you how long I was divorced for, because that's been the best years of my life.
Yeah. But I've been married a couple times.
Okay.
But Michelle and I were married. I mean, we were together almost 30 years. So we had a good relationship. We're still really good friends. She lives in Vegas now to take care of her mom. But eventually she'll have to come up here where I'm at.
Oh, yeah. So you have a still pretty decent relationship as far as.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
We're good friends. Yeah, we're both adults. We're not,
Yeah.
So if people want to see some of your work besides the music, I mean, is there a website? Is there something they have that they can see some of your I mean, are you into doing FX work still? If someone said, hey man, I'd love for you just want to do the acting.
Yeah, I'm mostly into acting and music now. I mean, somebody called me today and wondering about a makeup. They didn't know how much it would cost or what kind of makeup it was going to be or how it would be done, or on Kane Hodder for a magazine or something. And I'm like, well, not exactly in the area anymore, but I'll pass you on to somebody who's really, really great. And so, yeah, I'd pass that on to anybody. But yeah, mostly acting. Yeah, effect stuff. It's fun,
But anytime somebody needs a drummer, he's ready to go.
Yeah. You do the FX stuff if they give you a gig in the movie, acting.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, or even a paycheck.
Hey, paycheck's important.
Yeah.
So folks want to see if folks want to see the music, if they want, is there a website for the band?
Yeah, I mean, Pat's all over the internet, so it's Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. Spotify and iTunes. I mean,
YouTube's got some live videos.
If you just look that up, there's tons of stuff that pops up. There's live stuff from the Redwood in LA up on YouTube.
Oh gosh, the Redwood, yeah.
That's the only place to play in LA. Well, there's that, and then in the Valley, there's like 2 or 3 clubs, but there's not much. There's not much going on down there. And there's a scene that we have down there, but it's mostly kind of older folks, And I don't know what kids are doing down there now. I guess there's still kind of a punk scene, but it's dead. San Francisco, same way. There's nothing going on up there. It's odd.
But you get free heroin needles all over the place. They're free. You just pick them up.
Just clean them with a
that's up here. That's up here, like in Portland, where there's a really good music scene, though. Thriving music scenes, like you said. But it's dirty and kind of nasty up here. The city's fun to go to and look at, and that's the end of it.
One thing, get a real close look at it.
Their politics up here are up their ass. They don't know what's going on.
It's the same down here, buddy. It's the same in LA. When I went to Portland last time, a guy that makes my rings, he had a little bar up there called the Bible Club. And the thing about Portland, when I was there is a bar everywhere. I mean, there's so many bars, and all the owners are like bartenders that opened their own bars, and so they're all there. He's like, I'm going to go introduce you all the owners. They're sitting behind the bar pouring drinks. Well, this is my specialty. But I can see why people have some anger issues up there. They're getting drunk all the time. They're drinking every single night, and they're a little bit younger. And they haven't. I don't think they paid their dues as the three of us have.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then there's the homeless, and the fentanyl thing is horrible.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah. But they give it. They let it. You can just do it. It's like liberal to a fault up here. Me. People got to get back in the middle of the road someday. Quit driving on the edge of the road. What the hell are you doing? That's enough politics done.
Yeah. Now, when you guys are in Europe, are you doing festivals with other bands? Are you playing some niche places, or what's the?
We went out last year, and all got sick as a dog, and a couple of guys said I was positive COVID. I don't know if it was COVID or who knows, traveling sick. But yeah, it was festivals and then the oddest places. So it's set up through a touring company, Otis Tours. And so we had a driver and equipment. They handle all that and place to stay. And yeah, it was great. There was about 3 or 4 festivals, pretty big crowds. We did the Shock Festival, which is a big yearly one. Is that Netherlands, I think? And that's out in the middle of nowhere, like cornfields, and then it's this big old area with 3 or 4 stages, and it was great, yeah. And then the next night we'd be, like our Paris gigs, a couple Paris gigs. One was in this underground bar, in like it looked like fucking Nosferatu's fucking cave. It was so awesome, all limestone. It was how fucking old it was, horrifying. And just 130 degrees down there. Our bass player almost passed out. It was so hot, and so it was weird. It was like big festival, 1,000 people or more, to a little club with 30 people, in this underground bizarre place. So it was fun.
Yeah,
it was it was a wild time.
No heat.
We got.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able. I don't know if I'd be able to announce them, and then I'd have to leave out to go outside where the air is. We got to get you to play the punk rock in the park out here. I mean, they do. There's still some good shows out here sometimes. I mean,
yeah, and Rank Outsiders are very much in the realm of that. I mean, we have a country song a little bit on each record and a ballad, and we might do a cover song of some obscure older blues band or soul band that Pat pulls out of the woodwork, these songs from bands I've never ever heard of, which is awesome. But most of our stuff's pretty up tempo rock and stuff, so I think we fit in pretty much anywhere. Yeah,
you fit in anywhere. This weekend, actually, since I have this weekend off, and the next weekend, if my back is all right, I'm going to do Albuquerque Comic Con. But this weekend, Black Flag is playing. Now I think it's only Greg Ginn they got a guy, a skateboarder. That sings with the band now, or tours with them. He used to be a skateboarder, a pro skateboarder guy. But I don't know. I'm debating whether or not to go because Henry Rollins was my guy, or even Keith Morris was my guy that I used to like to watch, sing. And so yeah. I don't know if I'm going to go do it. I'm on the fence.
Yeah. Well, what about the other bands? Because 5 years ago or whenever it was like 3 Black Flags out there. I mean, there were the 2, but I didn't like any of it that much, but I preferred Keith Moore's one over Greg's. Then Greg did his Black Flag thing with, what's his name? Puerto Rican guy from Jealous Again.
Oh yeah. Is it Des? No,
no, Des.
No. Yeah. Anyways, I got brain fart right now. I'm a Rollins guy. I like him because Henry was Damage was like my first album, right?
Okay,
so
right. Yeah,
so I was like,
what got me. I was all about Jealous Again, and of course I had the original single. I wish I had that collection. I sold it for rent. Who knows how long ago? But I had every single from that era, every EP, and they're worth so much freaking money.
It's crazy how much vinyl is. I still have I still have an album that was, the SST Records put out from Lawndale, California. And I still have one of the original albums. But same way, I got rid of all my my vinyl and the punk rock stuff too, especially because you can't get that stuff anymore unless they reissue, but it's not the same thing. It doesn't sound, a CD is great, but it doesn't sound like that vinyl.
No, and we've had cheap end guys do that with RF7, a couple of our first 2 albums, and I just hate it because they didn't, they're just taking no time or effort in it at all, and it's a digital copy onto, I don't know, pissed me off because I figured Felix still had original tapes, and I know it costs money, but you got to go back to those source tapes to get them to sound good. I don't like the digital stuff. Even when I hear like our modern stuff, which of course we record digitally, but when it goes on an MP3 and then goes to someone's online radio station, and it just loses so much. I don't know. quality just doesn't seem to matter anymore to people. It's so odd. Now they'll buy tons of vinyl, but those are digital recordings. They're still, those are not analog.
It's not true vinyl.
It's not true vinyl. They're not analog recordings, because everybody's still recording digitally. We lost Brett looking frozen in time.
I think he's researching.
I'm doing researching. I'm like,
he likes to do video chat. So when you're on the phone with him, sometimes you're like, is he having a stroke or a seizure or something? No, it's Brett's stinking face.
But I think you have to do it like Neil Young.
Oh, Ron Reyes.
Yeah, Ron. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so all right. Listen, we've kept you long enough.
I remember the first time I saw Henry in the band, but I didn't like it. It was too aggressive for me at that point. And because plus my buddy Nick, who was my dead buddy Nick, who everything I did musically was with him, and we dropped some Sunshine Acid, and then went to see them at I think Cuckoo's Nest, because I know we went down south pretty far. And and so we were peaking at about the point where Flag came on. It was a little much for me to handle.
Freaked you all out on that acid and stuff.
Yeah. I was going to get punched in the face by the singer or not. I mean, it was like
he was a very aggressive. I saw. This is the craziest show I've ever saw, and I couldn't hear for 2 weeks. I saw it was Black Flag. It was Motorhead, Black Flag, and the Ramones as the headliner. And by the time, and there was riots outside. I think we saam at the Palace. Yeah. And I couldn't hear for 2 weeks. I'm sure I thought I broke my jaw, in the mosh pit. I mean, but yeah, listen, it's awesome that we appreciate you. We're fans of yours. And,
you guys too. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for coming on and BSing with us. And so if the folks want to find you, what is your next convention you're going to do? Is it Smoky Mountain?
Smoky Mountains later. I'm going to be Horror Realm, March 1st and 3rd.
March 3rd. And then you and I are in Ohio at Ohio Terror Con, I believe.
Yeah, Ohio Terror Con, August 16th and 18th.
Yeah.
And then Smoky Mountain Terror is June 7th and 9th.
Yeah, that's going to be a great show. You're going to have fun at that.
That August show.
Yeah. And
you know how it is. You look up my name, you can find all that stuff. It's all connected somewhere.
Yeah. YouTube, check him out on the bands, check out some of his music, and let's see if we can't I want to work with you, so we'll see if we can't get some acting in together before this year is over.
That'd be fun, huh?
Yeah.
John,
cheers, everybody. Thank you so much, Walter, for coming on.
That's my second cup of coffee all night. Hey, you're welcome. Thank you very much.
You got the coffee going?
Yeah, that's 2 now, so I'm up.
Uh-oh. But it's been great having you on, man. Really exciting talking to you about your music career and what would you call it? Phone pushing.
yeah,
phone moving. Yeah, but just a legendary career in its own way. Getting to work with so many greats at the start of their career. House of 1,000 Corpses, Rainn Wilson. I mean, look at all the stars that popped out of there.
I know, crazy. And now he does conventions too. Everybody does.
Everybody does.
Do it.
Yeah, a lot of A-listers all of a sudden this last year, huh?
Here's one story real quick. So you mentioned Walton Goggins. So I used to park cars at the Great Greek Restaurant on Ventura Boulevard in Sherman Oaks, and Walton was my boss. He was the guy that ran the car stand there. And he was, I got to go. I got an audition. I'm like, gosh, he's going to be someone someday. Little did we know that, he was going to be, he won an Academy Award for a short he did. So that whole cast, House of 1,000 Corpses, just legends. And then, of course, Walter Phelan, Dr. Satan was there. So
thank you.
Hey, Big John.
But okay. Well, hey guys, appreciate everything. Thank you guys in the chat. Thank you, Walter. Thank you, Brett. And we'll be announcing another show soon. We don't know what one yet, but there is one in the works. I'll surprise you guys with it in the near future. And until next time, talk to you later. Peace out.
Take it easy, everybody.